My name is Liam, 32 years old. Or was. I'm not sure what I am anymore. Jane, my wife, she looks at me now, and I see a stranger staring back. A stranger she despises. 19 months. That's how long it's been since my world imploded. Since I detonated everything I held dear with a bomb of my own making. A bomb named Stephanie. Stephanie. Just the name tastes like ash in my mouth. She was our neighbor, 27, a stay-at-home mom, just like Jane had been for years. A stay-at-home mom with a smile that could curdle milk and eyes that promised everything. Jane, 39. Beautiful, smart, the heart of our home, the sun around which our two boys, Ethan and Owen, orbited. She was everything, is everything, and I almost lost her. Almost? Who am I kidding? I did lose her. 2 years before the explosion, Stephanie and her husband, Mark, moved in. It was instant. The pull, the magnetic force, the feeling like I was drowning in a sea of need, a need I hadn't allowed myself to feel since Charlotte. Charlotte, 18 years old again. A lifetime ago, a different lifetime. I met Charlotte at a friend's barbecue. She was 20, older, experienced, and I was nothing. A virgin, petrified. But Charlotte, she looked at me like I was everything she ever wanted. It was a primal thing, animalistic. Every cell in my body screamed for her. We talked for hours, oblivious to everyone else. That night, she took me back to her apartment, and I left my innocence there. 11 months of pure, unadulterated lust. It burned bright and then fizzled. We had nothing in common. The fire was gone. Then came Jane. It wasn't a fire. It was a slow burn, a deep, abiding warmth that settled in my soul. I built my life around her, brick by brick, a fortress of love and trust. Or so I thought. Stephanie was Charlotte all over again, a rogue wave crashing against the solid foundation I'd built. We were buying a new SUV. Jane learned Stephanie worked at the local dealership. Go see her, Liam. She'll give you a good deal. Innocent words. Now, they echo in my head like a death knell. The first time I saw Stephanie at the dealership, the electricity crackled between us. Jane, bless her heart, didn't notice. She was too busy haggling over the price. A few days later, I had to bring the car back for mud flaps. Mud flaps. The irony isn't lost on me. My life was about to get very, very muddy. Stephanie found me in the waiting area, her eyes burning into mine. She pulled me into her office, closed the door. The air was thick, suffocating. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice a husky whisper. I feel something. I knew exactly what she felt. I felt it too. That animalistic pull, the irresistible urge. The death of reason. This is wrong, I managed to choke out. I know, she whispered, stepping closer. I don't care. The next morning, God, the shame, the guilt, the betrayal. I drove to her house after the kids were at school and our spouses were at work. Like a puppet, strings tied to my deepest, darkest desires. It was disappointing. The sex wasn't even good. Not like with Jane, but it was forbidden, dangerous, a secret. And that was the addiction. The thrill of almost being caught. The power. The control. 4 times. That's all it took. 4 times to shatter my life into a million pieces. 4 times to destroy the woman I loved. Looking back, I think the boredom of being a stay-at-home dad for so long was a factor. The endless routine, the lack of adult interaction. Stephanie offered a spark, a jolt of adrenaline, a deadly jolt. I thought I could compartmentalize, have this little secret adventure and still maintain my perfect life with Jane. I was a fool, a selfish, arrogant fool. Then came Thursday, the day the bomb detonated. I woke up next to Stephanie, the morning sun streaming through the window, painting the room in a false light of normalcy. Then, a sound. A pounding on the door. Stephanie's face contorted in fear. "That's my father-in-law," she whispered, her voice trembling. "He sometimes stops by unannounced." Too late. The door crashed open. Mark's father stood there, his face a mask of fury. He saw us, tangled in the sheets, and the rage exploded. He screamed obscenities, a torrent of hatred and disgust. He lunged at Stephanie, slapping her across the face, his nails leaving a bloody gash on her cheek. Then he turned on me. He hit me. Hard! Right on the jaw. I tasted blood. He grabbed fistfuls of my hair, yanking them out by the roots. I screamed, scrambling for my clothes, desperate to escape the maelstrom of violence. I ran, like a coward, leaving Stephanie to face the wrath of her father-in-law. Back at my house, I collapsed. The reality of what I'd done slammed into me with the force of a tidal wave. My perfect life, my perfect marriage, gone, shattered. I sat there for hours, staring at the walls, trying to figure out how to tell Jane. What could I possibly say? Finally, I called her, leaving a frantic message. "Jane, the first need to talk to you. It's important." No response. I texted. Still nothing. Then Mark and his father showed up at my house, banging on the door, screaming for me to come out. I hid inside, paralyzed with fear and shame. They finally left. I collapsed on the couch, sobbing. I fell asleep, only to be woken by the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. "Jane." I ran to the bathroom, splashing water on my face, trying to look presentable. What could I say? How could I explain? But she didn't come in. I watched her through the window as she walked down the street, towards Stephanie and Mark's house. 3 hours! She was gone for 3 hours. What was she doing there? What was she saying? What was she feeling? When she finally came home, I rushed to hug her. She recoiled, pushing me away. "I'm so sorry, Jane," I stammered. "Your apology is not accepted," she said, her voice cold, devoid of emotion. "I want you to leave." I fell to my knees, begging, pleading. "Please, Jane, don't do this. I don't want to go." But she was implacable. She called my father, told him everything. He came and picked me up, helped me pack a bag. As I left, broken and ashamed, I asked Jane what she was going to tell the boys. "I'll take care of it," she said, her face a mask of pain. That night, I called her. She answered, her voice flat, lifeless. "Hello? Jane, it's me. I'm so sorry. I'll never do anything like this again. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Silence. "Then, do you have anything more to say?" "No. I want you to stay at your parents' house for a couple of weeks." I reluctantly agreed. "When can I see you?" "When can I see the boys?" "I don't want to see you now. I'll call you every evening at 9. "I love you, Jane," I whispered. She hung up. The next night, the call was the same. Me apologizing, Jane silent. Finally, she spoke. "I want a divorce." The words hit me like a physical blow. I begged her to reconsider, but she was adamant. "I know I'll lose half my hard-earned assets," she said, her voice shaking. "But I can't. I can't do this anymore." Then, a moment of vulnerability. "I'd give you everything I own if you just disappear. Leave me and the boys alone." "You don't mean that, Jane," the first pleaded. "Yes, I do." The call ended. I cried all night. Divorce. The word tasted like poison. I couldn't let it happen. I had to find a way to win her back, to prove to her that I was worthy of her love. Despite everything, I decided to offer her a postnuptial agreement. So favorable, so one-sided that she couldn't refuse. A second chance at love, no matter the cost. While Jane was meeting with her divorce attorney, I was meeting with mine. Not to prepare for the divorce, but to craft the most ludicrously generous postnuptial agreement imaginable. It took 4 attorneys before I found one willing to create such a lopsided document. One that would essentially hand Jane the keys to my life, my future, my everything. But it was worth it. If it meant getting her back. Jane's attorney moved quickly. Divorce papers arrived at my parents' house just 11 days later. I immediately had Jane served with the proposed postnuptial agreement. That night we talked. After she read the proposal, I sensed a shift in her. The anger, the coldness, seemed to recede, replaced by a flicker of the caring, loving woman I knew. "This is a lot, Liam," she said, her voice barely a whisper. The agreement was a complete win for her. If we stayed married and living together for at least 30 months, she would keep nearly all of our marital assets. If I was ever unfaithful again, she would get everything. I would get nothing. No alimony, no child support. I would have to get a full-time job within 6 months and contribute to household expenses. And the kicker? She could see other men if she chose. "I know you'd never be unfaithful, Jane," I said, my voice trembling. "But I want you to know I love you enough to give you this option." To my surprise, she accepted. "With one addition, there's no requirement for us to sleep together," she said, her voice firm, "or to have any type of marital intimacy. For the remainder of our marriage," the words hit me like a punch to the gut. No intimacy? No chance to rekindle the flame? No hope of winning back her physical affection? But I agreed. I had to. I believed that with time, I could win back her respect, her trust, her love. I was wrong. 17 months. That's how long we've been living as… what? Housemates? Co-parents? Strangers sharing a roof? We're in our second marriage, as I call it. A marriage in name only. A charade. Since the affair, Jane has shown me absolutely no affection. Not a kiss, not a hug. Nothing. I try to sneak in a hug or a kiss occasionally, but she stiffens, recoils. I can tell she hates it. She makes me submit to monthly STD tests, as if I haven't learned my lesson, as if I would ever risk betraying her again. She won't go out in public with me, not even to family events. At our son's games, we alternate who takes them. When it's my turn, she shows up but stands on the sidelines with the other mothers, pretending I don't exist. We travel often. Vacations were always our thing. But now, she orders adjoining rooms. The boys in one, us in the other. Separate beds? I look forward to those trips, desperate for any sign of the old Jane. There have been moments, fleeting glimpses of warmth, but they always fade away, leaving me cold and empty. I've suggested moving from our neighborhood, starting fresh, but she refuses. She says she'll only move if she gets a job promotion that requires relocation. Otherwise, she's staying until the boys graduate high school. The boys don't want to move either. All their friends live nearby, as do all of Jane's friends. Since the affair, I've lost all my friends. The neighborhood men have ostracized me, blaming me for breaking up Stephanie's marriage. My home has become a prison. I rarely go out front. I stay inside, tending to my garden, a small patch of beauty in a landscape of despair. The boys are always out in the neighborhood playing with their friends, including Stephanie and Mark's kids. Thankfully, their world hasn't changed much. Jane does her own thing. She goes to work, then to the gym, comes home, fixes herself something to eat, then heads off to a game or practice, or out with her friends. She doesn't eat dinner with us. She won't eat anything I make anymore, except for the occasional sneaky cookie. On weekends, she fires up the grill and only eats what she cooks. The weekday dinners I have with the boys have been a blessing, a chance to bond, to teach them valuable skills, to create some semblance of normalcy in a shattered world. They even help me in the garden, where we've created a beautiful space. It's the one thing that brings me joy. So here I am, a man living in a prison of his own making. Some things in my life are great, some are awful. Is this marriage worth continuing? Should I just let Jane go, give her the financial freedom she deserves, and accept the consequences of my actions? I know, deep down, she's not happy. How could she be? She no longer sees me as her husband, her lover, just a co-parent, which we're both great at, by the way. I love Jane so much. I will carry the burden of what I did to her for the rest of my life. I want nothing more than to get back to the loving relationship we once had, but I don't think she'll ever let us go there. What should I do? How can I ever earn back her love and trust after betraying her so brazenly? The responses were varied, a mix of anger, pity, and advice. Some told me to set Jane free, to give her everything she deserved and disappear. Others suggested distance, a separation to give her time to heal. One response stuck with me: Adam, I think in your case what will draw your wife back to you is distance. You should stay married but separate for a while. As they say, distance makes the heart grow fonder, and I think Jane will quickly realize this. So I did it. I told Jane I was moving out. Her reaction surprised me. She seemed sad, a little lost. She asked a lot of questions. It was the first real emotion I'd seen from her in months. Where will you go? She asked, her voice barely audible. I've rented a place nearby, I said. A short-term rental. I still want to be involved in the boys' lives. Why are you doing this, Liam? I think we need space, Jane. You need space. I know I hurt you, and I want you to heal. And what about you? I'll be fine. I moved into a small, furnished apartment a few miles away. It was strange being alone after so many years of marriage. I missed the boys, the chaos, the comforting routine of family life. I also missed Jane, terribly. The silence in the apartment was deafening, a constant reminder of what I had lost. But being out of the house, away from the constant tension and resentment, was also a relief. The neighborhood was filled with too many bad memories. The boys started coming over to my apartment after school. We had dinner, watched movies, played games. They seemed to enjoy having me all to themselves. The real challenge was Jane. Since I moved out, I barely saw her. I tried to talk to her, but she was distant, guarded. I ended up calling her multiple times a week, asking stupid questions just to keep in touch. But slowly, things started to change. We started having long conversations about everything and nothing. I could sense a thawing in her, a softening of her heart. Was it possible? Could I actually win her back? 5 months after moving out, I came back to give my final update. It had been a journey, a roller coaster of emotions, a constant battle against my own demons. The downside? After 2 years of our second marriage, Jane decided it was best for us to divorce. My heart sank. I had hoped, against all odds, that we could make it work, but I understood. I knew I had broken something fundamental in her, something that could never be fully repaired. She explained that while she still loved me and would like to possibly reestablish a romantic relationship at some point in the future, she just couldn't do it while we were married. She said it felt disrespectful, a constant reminder of my betrayal. It would be like dating again, she said. And I promise you, Liam, we will go out to celebrate our divorce the day it's final and possibly spend the night. I know this sounds like a crazy ploy to divorce me without guilt on her part, but I'm up for it if it means I can keep this woman in my life as my partner, lover, and friend. If we do reconnect, Jane made it clear we will never get remarried. She feels if we truly love each other, a binding contract isn't necessary. I agree with that statement, but I do wish there was some way she could do this without divorcing me. As for the divorce, I'm voluntarily letting her keep 3/4 of our marital assets, even though she didn't fulfill the stipulations of the postnuptial. I'm also not going to pursue alimony or child support from her. I know there are men out there who are going to chide me for being so giving, but I feel she earned the money and would have given all of her fortune to me if I had remained faithful to her. I'm at peace with this decision. Even with a reduced settlement, I'll be able to live comfortably for the next 8 years or more without working. But I'm working now, so I'm in even better shape there. I have taken a job as a landscaper, something I had always dreamed of pursuing. I'm focusing on being a good father, a good co-parent, and a good friend to Jane. I'm taking things one day at a time, hoping that one day she'll see me as more than just the man who broke her heart. In closing, I just want to thank those who sent me responses. You don't know how much your words guided my actions and helped me through this trying time. Before I sign off here, I wanted to give some advice to men out there who have difficulty controlling temptation. As I obviously do, my advice to you is resist. Don't do it. The thrill is not worth the risk. It's almost like the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as the saying goes. If you feel you can't keep yourself in check, seek professional help. I can assure you from experience, the short-term high is not worth the long-term loss of love, respect, and trust. My best to all of you. Liam! And so my story ends. Not with a fairy tale ending, not with a neat resolution, but with a glimmer of hope. A hope that one day, maybe, just maybe, I can earn back a piece of what I destroyed. A hope that Jane can forgive me, and a hope that I can finally forgive myself. The divorce went through. The celebration never happened. But we talk. We co-parent. We're friends. I see Jane sometimes. At the boys' games, at school events. We exchange polite smiles, brief conversations. There's still a sadness in her eyes, a lingering pain. But there's also a hint of something else. Curiosity? Perhaps even forgiveness? I still love her, more than anything, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to prove it, even if it means loving her from afar, even if it means never being her husband again. Because sometimes, the greatest love is the love that lets go. The landscaping job saved me. It gave me purpose, a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It was hard work, physical labor, but it was also therapeutic. Digging in the dirt, planting flowers, creating beauty. It was a way of atoning for the ugliness I had brought into Jane's life. I found a small nursery on the outskirts of town, run by an old woman named Elsie. She had a kind face and a gentle spirit, and she took me under her wing, teaching me everything she knew about plants, soil, and the delicate art of coaxing life from the earth. Elsie saw the pain in my eyes, the remorse etched on my face. She didn't ask questions, she just listened. And sometimes, that was all I needed. The earth has a way of healing, Liam, she said one day, as we were planting a row of lavender. Give it time, and give yourself time. I started spending more time in my own garden. It had always been Jane's sanctuary, a place where she could escape the stresses of everyday life. After the affair, it had become a symbol of our broken marriage, a reminder of all that we had lost. But now I saw it as a blank canvas, an opportunity to create something new, something beautiful. I ripped out the overgrown weeds, pruned the neglected bushes, and started planting new flowers. Roses, her favorite, lilacs, which reminded me of her mother, and sunflowers, bright and cheerful, a symbol of hope. The garden became my therapy, my meditation. As I worked, I thought about Jane, about our life together, about the mistakes I had made. I realized that I couldn't undo the past, but I could shape the future. I could become a better man, a man worthy of her love, even if that love was only platonic. One evening, as I was watering the newly planted roses, I heard a voice behind me. "It looks beautiful, Liam," Jane said, her voice soft. I turned around, my heart pounding in my chest. She was standing at the edge of the garden, her arms crossed, a faint smile on her face. "Thank you," I said, my voice trembling. I wanted to make it beautiful for you." "It is beautiful," she said, stepping closer. "You have a real talent for this." "Elsie taught me everything I know," I said, gesturing towards the nursery. "She's a wonderful woman. I should meet her sometime," Jane said. We stood there in silence for a moment, just looking at each other. It was the closest we had been in months. "The boys love the garden," she said, breaking the silence. "They spend hours out here playing hide and seek." "I'm glad," I said. I wanted them to have a place where they could feel safe and happy. "You're a good father, Liam," she said, her eyes softening. I never doubted that. The compliment warmed me. A small ember of hope rekindled in the ashes of my despair. "You're a good mother, Jane," I said. "The best." "I don't know what I would do without you." She looked away, a flicker of pain crossing her face. "I should go," she said, turning to leave. "Dinner's almost ready." "Jane," I said, reaching out to stop her. Can we talk sometime? About us?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Maybe," she said, "but not tonight." She walked away, leaving me standing alone in the garden, my heart aching with a mixture of hope and longing. A few weeks later, Jane called me. "Are you busy?" she asked, her voice hesitant. "Never too busy for you," I said, my heart skipping a beat. "Can you meet me for coffee?" she asked. "I need to talk to you about something." I met her at a small cafe near her office. She looked tired but also determined. "I've been thinking," she said, after we had ordered our coffee. "About us." About what happened. I braced myself. This was it. The moment of truth. "I've realized that I can't keep living in the past, Liam," she said. "I can't let what happened define me or define us. I need to move on." "I understand," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "But moving on doesn't mean forgetting," she continued. "It means learning from our mistakes. It means forgiving and being forgiven." My eyes filled with tears. Do you mean that?" I asked. My voice choked with emotion. "I'm trying to," she said. "It's not easy, but I'm trying." "What does this mean for us, Jane?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "I don't know what the future holds. But I'm willing to explore the possibilities." "What kind of possibilities?" I pressed. "Dating," she said, meeting my gaze. "Just dating. No pressure. No expectations. Just getting to know each other again." My heart soared. "I would love that," I said, my voice filled with gratitude. "But there are ground rules," she said, her voice firm. "Anything," I said. "I'll do anything." "No secrets," she said. "No lies. Complete honesty. If we're going to do this, we have to be completely transparent with each other." "Agreed," I said. "Absolutely. And no expectations of anything more," she added. "I'm not promising you anything, Liam. I'm not saying we'll ever be a couple again. I'm just saying I'm willing to give you a chance. That's all I ask," I said. We started slowly. Casual lunches, walks in the park, movies at home. We talked about everything and nothing, rediscovering each other in a way we never had before. I learned about her fears, her dreams, her insecurities. I learned about the pain I had caused her, the damage I had inflicted. I also learned about her strength, her resilience, her unwavering love for our sons. I started to see her not just as my wife, but as a woman, an individual with her own unique desires and needs. One evening, after a particularly enjoyable date, I walked her to her door. "I had a wonderful time, Jane," I said, my voice sincere. "Me too," she said, smiling. I leaned in to kiss her, but she hesitated. "Not yet, Liam," she said, gently pushing me away. "We're not there yet." One understood. I respected her boundaries. I wasn't going to push her into anything she wasn't ready for. "Okay," I said. "But someday?" "Maybe," she said, smiling mischievously. "But you'll have to earn it." Earning it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. It meant being patient, being understanding, being supportive. It meant putting Jane's needs before my own. It meant proving to her, day after day, that I was a changed man. I continued to work at the landscaping company, pouring my heart and soul into every project. I took on extra shifts, saved every penny I could, and started contributing to the household expenses again. I became more involved in the boys' lives, attending their games, helping them with their homework, and just being there for them whenever they needed me. I made sure Jane had time for herself, encouraging her to go out with her friends, to pursue her hobbies, to take care of herself. I listened to her when she needed to talk, offering a shoulder to cry on and a non-judgmental ear. I celebrated her successes, both big and small, and offered comfort and support during her failures. I showed her, through my actions, that I was committed to her, to our family, and to our future. Slowly, gradually, the walls she had built around her heart began to crumble. She started to let me in again, to trust me, to rely on me. The kisses came, tentative at first, then more passionate, more frequent. The hugs lingered longer, the touches became more intimate. We started spending more time together, just the two of us. Weekends away, romantic dinners, quiet evenings at home. We talked about our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future. We shared our deepest secrets, our vulnerabilities, our innermost thoughts. We rebuilt our relationship, brick by brick, creating a new foundation of love, trust, and respect. One night, after a particularly passionate evening, Jane looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I think I'm falling in love with you all over again, Liam," she said, her voice trembling. My heart swelled with joy. "I never stopped loving you, Jane," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "I never will. We didn't get remarried." Jane was adamant about that. She said she didn't need a piece of paper to prove our love. And I agreed. Our contract was unwritten, unspoken, but it was stronger than any legal document. It was a contract built on honesty, trust, and a deep, abiding love. We continued to live our lives, together but separate, husband and wife in every sense of the word except legally. We raised our sons, supported each other's dreams, and faced the challenges of life hand in hand. I never forgot the mistakes I had made, the pain I had caused. I carried that burden with me always, a reminder of the fragility of love and the importance of forgiveness. And I never stopped trying to be a better man, a better husband, a better father. I learned that love is not a feeling, it's a choice. A choice to commit, to forgive, to support, to cherish. And I chose Jane every day for the rest of my life. Years passed. The boys grew up and left home, pursuing their own dreams. Jane's career flourished, and she became a partner at her law firm. I continued to work as a landscaper, finding fulfillment in creating beauty and bringing joy to others. We grew old together, our love deepening with each passing year. We faced health challenges, financial struggles, and the inevitable losses of life. But through it all, our love remained steadfast, a beacon of light in the darkness. One day, as we were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, Jane turned to me, her eyes filled with love. "You know, Liam," she said, "I think we made it." "We did," I said, taking her hand in mine. "We did." And in that moment, I knew that all the pain, all the heartache, all the struggles had been worth it, because in the end, we had found our way back to each other. We had created a love that was stronger, deeper, and more resilient than anything we had ever imagined. A love forged in the fires of betrayal, tempered by forgiveness, and sealed with an unwritten contract that would last a lifetime. And that, I realized, was the greatest love story of all. Years after Elsie's death, I found myself drawn back to the nursery. It had changed hands, become a sprawling garden center with rows upon rows of meticulously arranged plants. It lacked the soul, the quiet wisdom that Elsie had imbued it with. Still, I wandered through the aisles, breathing in the familiar scent of earth and blossoms. I paused before a small section dedicated to herbs. Rosemary, thyme, sage. Plants Elsie had taught me held not only culinary value, but symbolic meaning. Rosemary for remembrance, thyme for courage, sage for wisdom. An elderly woman, not unlike Elsie in her gentle demeanor, approached me. "Looking for something specific, sir?" she asked, her voice soft and kind. "Just remembering," I said, smiling wistfully. "An old friend used to run a nursery like this. She taught me a lot about plants and about life." The woman's eyes twinkled. "The earth has much to teach us, doesn't it? It's a constant cycle of death and rebirth, of loss and renewal. Her words resonated with me, echoing Elsie's earlier sentiments. She used to say that the earth has a way of healing, I said, and that we need to give it time and give ourselves time. The woman nodded sagely. Wise words, and so true. Healing isn't always linear. It's a winding path, filled with obstacles and setbacks. But if we persevere, if we nurture ourselves and those around us, we can find our way back to wholeness. She gestured towards a small, unassuming plant tucked away in a corner. Do you know what this is? I leaned closer, examining the plant. It had delicate, heart-shaped leaves and tiny, white flowers. I'm not sure, I said. I don't recall Elsie ever showing me this one. It's called Bleeding Heart, the woman said. Beautiful, isn't it? But also fragile. Its blooms are so exquisite, so tender, that they can easily be broken. She paused, her gaze piercing. Life can break our hearts, sir. It can shatter them into a million pieces. But even a broken heart can bloom again. It can learn to love again, to trust again, to hope again. She smiled gently. And sometimes, the most beautiful blooms come from the most broken hearts. I looked at the bleeding heart plant, its delicate blooms swaying gently in the breeze. I thought of Jane, of our journey, of the pain we had endured, and the love we had rediscovered. I knew then that Elsie's wisdom had lived on, not only in my heart, but in the hearts of countless others who had sought solace and guidance from the earth. I purchased the bleeding heart plant, carefully cradling it in my arms. As I walked out of the nursery, I knew that I would plant it in my garden, a symbol of hope, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love to heal even the most broken hearts. A reminder that even after the harshest winter, spring will always return, and with it, the promise of new beginnings.